We live with no break. Yo,
Morning, peace. How you doing?
we don't got the what to do intro, so sorry about that. Yeah, we
We
all
do
right.
not. We do not. Just spoiler alert: Amber is not with us today. That energy is missed, but she will be back. She will be back shortly. Maybe she'll even be in the chat. Who knows? You never know who pops up in the infamous chat. Good morning, everyone. It's Lorik and Geechee and Amber in spirit on the Friday remix. How you been, Geechee?
Been well, man. Been doing all this traveling and trying to finish up programs and start semesters and I'm tired. Let's say that. So how about you?
Yeah. All y'all getting ready. School's back.
Yeah.
It's time for y'all to get to work. I'm doing well. Doing well. Can't complain. Busy weeks. Some programming, and some of my comrades are rereading Asada and are way ahead of me. So I gotta catch up on some reading probably tonight, so I could be
Mhm.
ready to go tomorrow. But
What
that's
y'all
me.
what y'all rereading it for, or what's the plan?
So this was something that was decided by my comrades in Miami that they wanted to do this month. Folks said we wanted to reread Asada. We've been studying her and in community with her work throughout the year, and folks were inspired. And I was like, okay, we don't have that much capacity this month, but we can show up at a set time and just be in community and read. And they've held it down. So I'm excited, but that's why just been celebrating her life, obviously, since she passed last year. And it's made a lot of folks reflective on her legacy. So I think it's a really cool Black August session. And then speaking of, Tandy Rootwork has been doing Black August study sessions Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the channel. So that's been another really good one that I've been up to.
Hey, have you ever heard of this book called Cumby? Um, and
Yes.
you read it?
I haven't read it, but someone mentioned it to me uh, the other day, or I heard someone mention it. Was it?
I don't know if it was me, but I know, like I know I signed it for some reading in our first class because we covering like the 1860s and go all the way up till today. I mean, well, today, and the event that we're reading around to discuss and write about is the Combahee River Raid.
Mm,
And um, uh, Etta Fields Black, she wrote the narrative using pension requests from freedom seekers who tactically use the fight between the Republicans and Democrats, the Confederates and the Union, to get to the next stage of a protracted struggle. And I just think her document our ancestors' words and narratives and stories and I don't know. It's just kind of like constantly remind you of how important. Again, shout out to my brother Kai. Like uh, journaling and archiving, because essentially, like the dominant group or the dominant people in an environment normally gets to tell the story, right? So if you're dealing with patriarchal bullshit of a work leader, a boss leader, organizational leader, if you don't tell your story or tell your side, is the chances are the person who has the power would be able to control what you know about it, and then that turns into, in terms of a historical thing, it turns into everything you know about Harriet Tubman is through what a white man said, because most of us don't even struggle with primary sources to even inform our narratives that we have. Like it's normally like through somebody else. So yeah, man, I've been shit. I've been having some times with it, like because she documented how Harriet came down there. Again, this is after Harriet already have had years and years of struggling and getting people from Maryland to Philly, constant without losing lives. Um, and then was kind of dismissed on her impact, and then eventually they had to admit that her impact was is legit, and then they needed her to you know uh, uh, build the trust with the other enslaved Africans. And when she got down to the Combahee and St. Helena, she was saying how like it was hard to understand the Geechee people, like
Mm.
and they both couldn't, it was hard for them two to understand each other. Like, and again, like I guess for me, because I live in Baltimore for a while, and even though the accents are different, like that, or the language or the dialect is different, Baltimore and Charleston is extremely similar in terms of how the black population interact with the white population, how the black person create Creole cultures or certain type of cultures. Now, obviously, Baltimore is a majority black city, um, but there's just like really deep connections to the two people. But so yeah, anyway, like that, she did a real good job, and I think it's argued that this is the first time that somebody was able to construct the community with enslaved Africans, because of and using their words, right? So when you look at the pensions, she said they would always be talking, they would be talking about each other. So they'd be like, and Johnny never went to church, and his husband whatever, and she was able to like develop a whole community. And then one of the things that there was always freed people in terms of labor, right? You could kind of see a larger labor argument. And then also, she was talking about there was one enslaved person who was like, and I got to remember the name. He was like the whisperer of cropping. Like whenever your crop fuck up, they would like send him out to different crops, and he would come fix it all. And like he was like a really decorated, so you can kind of see the class distinction even among the enslaved and whatever. So it's like it was just a. I think she did a really, really, really good job at documenting that. So I've been reading. We I have a sign reading for the class, but I've been just reading and watching interviews just because I'm even more fascinated. So yeah,
It's really, really cool. And I think I
yeah,
want to share something from that article, just to talk about who writes history and how it's covered and all of that. So this is from the
yeah.
article on Kubi that you were just talking about, that book about
Come be.
Harriet Tubman. Cumby, sorry.
Yeah.
In a 2021 interview, Fields Black, the author, explained that her research for the book originated in her longstanding academic focus on the transnational history of West African rice farming in pre-colonial West Africa's Upper Guinea coast and antebellum South Carolina and Georgia Lowcountry. So I think this is really cool. I love this sort of thing. Our Theory Thursday yesterday was free the land, but also land back. But it was this discussing like new African and indigenous people's relationships to the land. Naturally, there was still a little bit of pushback from some folks who believed that we were native to this land. Um, your doctor covered that, I believe, early last week. But what about the idea that there are some of us who were here on the continent before colonization, that kind of thing, which we, of course, usually challenge by saying the vast majority of us come from West Africa. And a great show on this, if you've never seen it, have you heard of the show called High on the Hog?
You remember I was telling you that BJ, my friend BJ, he's a dentist. I mean, damn, his name is BJ Dennis. He's a chef, and he was on the first High on the Hog, and I introduced him to Amber, so he showed Amber around when he was down. But yeah, BJ's on there.
There you go. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a great series, folks, on Netflix, where they cover African American cuisine, and then they tie it
Perfect.
from the first
Cool.
episode to Africa. Yep. They talk about us creating sweet potatoes because we used to have yams on the continent, all these things that, when you do all the forensic clues, it points to us being African as much as some people seem a little confused about that. So I just think that's interesting as you're talking about this history and all this person going through the pension records and all of those things. Their original thing that tied them to the story was looking at like, oh wow, this is how we used to eat in Africa, and it's tied to our diet in the Americas. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was cool. And then another thing that's just very interesting, and we covered that Jubilee interview. But the book plays an important role in the preservation of Harriet Tubman's legacy. Exactly to your point. Who's gonna raise it though? Who's gonna pay attention to it? Since its publication and based in part on the evidence it presents, Governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, commissioned Harriet Tubman Brigadier General of the Maryland National Guard on Veterans Day 2024. And the U.S. Army General Council issued a ruling that Tubman was and should be honored as a Union Civil War soldier. Okay.
So
Anyway.
here's how. So I'm looking forward to the class. I've met some of my students physically, and then also because our first class is till Monday, and yeah, it's just an interesting mix. But I do plan. So as I said before, I do plan like once we get to the 2020s, like to some of our work at Black Liberation Media, as an argument, an extension of Black Agenda Report. But I do plan to bring up the Westmore point, and I actually didn't really. I haven't looked up anything Westmore said or might have said about Harriet Tubman, but I can only imagine because when he was in 20V1, he was talking about Fred Hampton is a really big deal, and then
Yes.
like, like oh shit, but yeah, but I don't know. I just think it's a fascinating time. One of the other things too, like I took a moment because it was talking about again how remember like they try to erase Harriet for a long period of time. People like earlier sons and what's William Lord Garrison's son. Both of those sons were in the same military connection by the time Harriet was there, and they actually wrote about her how serious she was or whatever. And so they was like those men was actually and many other people, but they were their stories and their journaling was able to correct the narrative about how white people try to erase her. And then they even try to downplay her when they literally technically use her um, to make the Gullah people comfortable and make the people comfortable to even join. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's fat. Like this, I'm telling you, primary sources is a fun and sometimes humbling experience whenever you like when the shit don't match what everybody say. Like you can be like, oh, but they used to talk about how a lot of people would say how fine Harriet was when she was younger, because they were saying how like um, when you see her, all the pictures you saw was older, but like a lot of the people at the time, men and women, were talking about like how beautiful she was, how strong and smart, intelligent. Um, and then at one point, whenever they used to like she'd be on speaker circuit at the end, they used to talk about how all like the young men in the thing they just kind of like almost like treated like a queen mother, and everybody was like celebrating her and stuff like that. So yeah, I ended up watching the Harriet movie again, and
Oh
did
no. Oh
did the
no.
chair, and it was just a lot. I was like, God,
Oh.
that was obvious. That was obvious. Like they try to make the Janelle Monae character like, yeah, Harriet, I'm a black business owner. You ain't never seen her like this. She said, my husband was free just like you down south. Nigga, like, oh, nigga. So that shit funny as hell. But yeah.
Oh man, it's bringing me back. I know we talk about the media criticism and some of the danger of the new stuff, Vernon philosophy, all those things. But one of the things that really just drove home that Vernon philosophy for me is people just wanting to attach themselves to something because it's black and they assume it's pro black in this media environment. So I had this whole argument with my grandfather because he was like, everybody has to go see Harriet. You have to go see it. You have to, you have to, you have to. And I had just read a book on Harriet. a biography written by a black woman, I believe. I'll look it up. But I was basically trying to argue that the book was better. And at best, the argument, some of my family were like, "Well, you should do both." Blah 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 blah. We've had that argument here, right? Like with the Malcolm X movie, the Spike Lee's Malcolm X. Should you do both, really, or should you maybe study Malcolm a different way? I think that isn't entirely settled yet, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's complicated because even the struggle, quote unquote, that created the Malcolm X movie is not the same as what created the Harriet movie. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the Janelle Monáe thing you're talking about, I was talking about that they invented an antagonist called Bigger Long, who was a slave catcher.
Was
And I was like, all the white people from history, and
listen,
y'all want to invent
Bigger Long is literally impossible. It's impossible to be a Bigger Long in that moment. It's like it's
yeah.
not even close.
So I thought that was interesting. To 2 points, I see some things in the chat. Peace and welcome everybody as people start filing in,
Yeah,
virtually
one of
speaking.
those points from the book I wanted to respond to, but go ahead after that.
No, I don't know if it was this one, but Kyrie 9. Yeah, it's true though. It was a middle. I agree. I was saying, yeah, absolutely. And she's the nation's first spy. But we had this discussion on Juneteenth about how you, again, remember something to Geechee's point. So my point is, one, like the state is going to try and co-opt her when they weren't fully aligned behind her work in the first place. Obviously, that's why the Civil War is happening. um, so I don't think Harriet Tubman would support what the National Guard is doing now. So they named the National Guard after her, and the rank her a brigadier general is some liberal shit. But it's similar to when they were trying to name like a CIA base after Harriet Tubman, or I think there's an ICE detention center that has Harriet Tubman's name on it. Those kinds of horrible things. I could check on the detention center, but there is some sort of punitive institution that cages people that calls itself Harriet Tubman. So I was just pointing that element
Yeah,
of things out a little bit. Geechee.
yeah. So I think what this beautiful sister had done with the research, because she did say like she went down. So her family, her ancestors fought in the raid, which is huge, right? And most people don't want to talk about the raid because it was 25 million plus of land and property seized or burned, right? And when you read this book and the accounts from her and some of the Gullah Geechee ancestors or freedom seekers, the Low Country Creoles is what they call. Like you could read from their own words that you could see that they're all shit. Like you could see that Harriet was using the military to continue the fucking work she's been doing for a long time, and the people in Charleston, in particular, definitely understood whatever. Because even when they first talked, it was like, listen now, you coming with that Yankee Bucker now? What's going on with that Yankee Bucker there? Because they know that Bucker up there looked the same way the Bucker in our head. So
Yeah.
you gotta tell me, like Harry, what the fuck you doing with them? We know you now. Now what you doing with them? So they had to like she had a restaurant. She used to do I'm gonna do the washerwomen strike the next class, but she had her laundry services, and she was building a relationship with the people. Now remember, the other people are forced to set up, as they call, I forgot the name that, but it's pretty much landmines, right? There's another torpedoes. They call it torpedoes because at that time that's what they were saying, but it was really landmines. The Africans were forced not only to work and do all the other things, they was also forced to build the trenches and later whatever. So all of the Africans knew where the landmines was at. So if she built a relationship with them and she realized that okay, like we whatever, they told her where each of the landmines at. They went and detonate each of them. Or not, well, I don't know, is detonate the word? They went
I
to
think so.
diffuse. They went to
Or diffuse.
diffuse
Okay, yeah.
each one of them, and that literally was the tipping point for them to get into a position to actually strike. So it's like there's an argument like not only do the white people get the credit because Harry said like, damn, y'all don't think we get some of the damn credit? Like Harry wrote that, and people felt some type of way because she was writing or speaking at least, saying like, yo, like Like, nigga, I went down there to South Carolina, and the information I got and the situation I put, that put us in a winning spot. Not, I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. So that was even like a struggle that they had. But also, there's an argument that the freedom seekers, the Gullah people, they know what the fuck they was doing, because the thing about how white people tell a story, they make you think like that you wouldn't understand that, like, somebody in Dunwoody up the road with all that farm is probably have somebody enslaved. You wouldn't really know, right? So I think the way she allow, again, those primary sources of enslaved Africans, and their, like, intelligence system and the communication. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen stuff like that in terms of firsthand account. But even if you read that book, there's a lot of movies that we could make off of those things. Because she even said, Etta Fields Black said that a lot of people haven't engaged her research as, historical documents that they can build off movies to. But even the way she tell a story kind of like yields for somebody to create some stuff. So hopefully we can inspire, whether it's a documentary or whatever. But I think I do want to research more about um, the Low Country Creoles, um, especially after, my two of my family members has been arguing with Kevin on stage for well, not arguing, but they've been playing around with the word "both" for a while, and I'm just like, man, we got other shit to be focused on than to be saying "bow" is not a Gullah word, and we don't say "bow" and this person that, like, it's anyway. So
I mean, yeah, we're always gonna have those little debates, but
yeah,
I see it very important. Those primary sources, absolutely. And Harriet Tubman's life, just I was reading it, I was like, this is like a superhero. Honestly, it was one of the most impressive biographies I think I've ever read of any human being. It
yeah,
doesn't even make sense. I down to, like, I think getting brain surgery without anesthesia in like her late years, which is tragic to hear about.
yeah.
But just this person doesn't sound well. She does sound like us, but like doesn't sound like she has ordinary human will. It sounds extraordinary whenever you
Yeah.
read about her and her background.
Yeah, she talks a little bit about how, the thing that the movie dramatized, but she talked about, like, there's times, especially in her old age, when Harriet would, like, just stop talking and for a while, and it looked like she's in a spell. And Harriet will explain it as like she's getting downloads, as 19 Keys would say, um, spiritual downloads to inform certain things. And again, I know in terms of like a atheist or agnostic, if somebody did what she did, escape, move from 100 miles from Maryland, the way it looked then in 1840s or whatever that was, and go all the way up to Philly, and then went back, because they say, like, most people when they escape, they don't go back and try to go get people. It's um
Yeah.
somebody who did that many times, and very little to no lives was lost in the excursion. I don't give a fuck what you tell me, like, you was believing in what God like, I'm all right. I'm not about to argue with that. Like, um but yeah, so yeah, I think as you said, that surgery, it was interesting, even because I don't even know if Etta Fields Black has some type of religious background, which I would assume she do. Sometimes Gullah people, it's hard for us to be atheists, because of our praise house. Um, but yeah, so I do see the same thing, like a superhero. But even our superheroes, like, I feel like there's a political, as we said, and we gonna get into with this story soon too, in terms of media. There's still a responsibility, historical responsibility. Like, you can dramatize it, but you ain't gotta lie, and also, like, uh I guess, counter, like, her political utility, or even the political utility. Like, I mean, you can imagine the movie Harriet was a black girl excellence, or black entrepreneurial
Unfortunately.
love fest, right? But
Yeah, 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 yeah. The narrative that they seek to insert in these movies is I think where the core of it is. Like, that's why it was so dangerous. Peace and good morning. As folks are coming in, we just been discussing Harriet Tubman. Specifically, Ichi recommended the book Kumbi, and we've been talking about that. All right, so you already started mentioning the stories. Are you ready for news? You want to hop into it right before we hit 8:30? All
Let's do
right,
it.
let's get it. Peace, peace. Welcome again, Friday Remix. Lorik, Geechee, Amber, and Spirit. And we got some news stories for you, Geechee. We got a variety of picks. I didn't know if you had one you wanted to start on. I know you want to talk about this Camilla story, but we
Yeah,
have a bunch of different things we can go through.
yeah. I've been kind of, and I actually didn't. I started to read it, and then I went off into something to look at. I end up the judge who recused himself. I watched that interview that they based the argument off. Because I never saw it, so I actually haven't even read it, but I've been seeing little news clips of um I guess some of the updates in the trial. So like I think we should start there. I don't know if you got to read it yet or if you have any initial thoughts. But
We can go ahead and just go through the story. Do you have it pulled up, or you want me to grab it?
when I clicked
I
that
saw
link and
the
went to
NAACP involved. That was the story I read.
yeah, the PBS one, I'm gonna put it in the chat because when I click on it, it went to another window.
Got you. Okay.
Or actually, I can pull it up. My bad.
Yes, no problem.
But yeah, so this PBS story talks about, and I mean, obviously, you got the people who do clip art. Judge removed from the Texas track meeting stabbing case as defendant Carmelo Anthony seeks a new trial.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so McKinney, Texas AP, the judge in the case of a Texas teenager convicted of fatally stabbing a 17-year-old athlete at a high school track meet was removed Wednesday. Yeah, ordered removed Wednesday as the defendant seeks a new trial in a case that drew national attention. Carmelo Anthony, now 19, was convicted of murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison after a suburban Dallas jury in June rejected his claims of self-defense during a confrontation with Austin Metcalf in the stadium bleachers. So again, I don't, even the judge was talking about AI, and so I don't know. I haven't probably done proper vetting, but I did see some circulating of like the new lawyers have pulled up a history of Austin and his brother criminal engagement of doing different like race driven stuff. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but also I'm curious if you had any thoughts or even seen some of this.
I knew this was what the team was going for coming up next. So I was aware this is the direction they were going in, but no, I hadn't seen these updates. So I'm reading it live, like some of our folks in the chat for the first time. But yeah, I'm interested if you want to keep reading.
Yeah, yeah. So the case attracted national attention in part because of a flood of social media posts. Again, this is interesting because something that uh, did you watch the interview of the judge, the post trial interview? Because I don't know
No,
if they, yeah. So we can watch a little bit of that if you're interested, because it was kind of interesting. Some of
absolutely.
the words used. Um, a flood of social media posts that amplified the killing in racial terms. It's interesting. Uh, Anthony is black. Metcalf was white. Lawyers on both sides, however, told jurors the tragedy had nothing
Hmm.
to do with race. Right? Dozens of Anthony supporters gathered inside and outside the Colleton uh, County courtroom for Wednesday's hearing and said, and some chanted "Free Carmelo" in the parking lot at the visiting judge Sid Harley's order to remove state district judge John Roach, and as Anthony seeks a retrial. A new judge will be assigned on Thursday's hearing on Anthony's request for a retrial. I don't know if you want to pick up some more.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take on. Anthony's legal team argued Wednesday that a retrial is needed in part because Roach enforced overly strict courtroom rules and gave an interview after the trial was over. So okay, we got to visit what you just referenced. Okay, there it is. In the interview that was played Wednesday night's hearing, Roach was asked if the jury got it right. Yeah, they did, Roach said. Whatever they say, they got it right. I mean, a lot of judges would say that. Harley said he did not know Roach and he believed Roach would be fair in a hearing for a retrial, but Harley agreed to Anthony's request to remove him because of the way it might look to a third party. Anthony attended the hearing wearing a green jumpsuit. His parents and Metcalf's parents also were in the courtroom. Attorneys for Anthony's and Metcalf's families did not immediately comment on the ruling. Anthony did not testify during the trial, where students described a heated exchange over Anthony's refusal on a rainy spring day to leave a tent that belonged to Metcalf's team. The teens went to different high schools. Several schools were competing when Anthony sat under the Memorial High School tent that was perched in the bleachers. Austin Metcalf and others had repeatedly told Anthony to leave, witnesses testified, leading to an escalating confrontation. Prosecutors say Anthony provoked Metcalf, and witnesses testified that Anthony was the aggressor. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Anthony at one point reached inside a bag and replied, "Touch me and see what happens." That's aggression. That's being the aggressor. That's being the aggressor. Saying, if you do something to me, I'll show you what happens. Is me being aggressive to you.
But again, so when you think about the white patriarchal that inclusive to with black patriarchal, if somebody said the person said something and it made me hit them, they were like, well, you caused me, like I told you, and the white narrative can say like, oh, because he said that, like he challenged them, and yeah, like but anyway, but I this gonna go to the media, the interview that he had, and it also remind me of, again, when we sitting in the room with the data center people and the scientists of the data center and the lawyer of the data center is saying how fair and how honest and all this other stuff. And I'm like, and back to the argument, like fair and honest can still be untrue or the wrong narrative, and fair and honest for who? You know what I mean? So even the language that I'm looking forward to get into the video, but even the language, you can kind of see what we're dealing with in terms of like the small ass area, and he says something how he wanted to make sure that the only people from this county, right? He didn't want it public or whatever. So it'll be interesting how. Also, you talked about like the students got doxxed, and so even the person who might have said this testimony, having their stuff doxxed or having this thing public, is it's interesting how we flirt between the concept of dox and then something being public and what should be public versus private, especially as it relates to conflict. So, but yeah, you can keep going.
Nah, we could watch the video. This pissed me clean off. I don't know how much more we want to do in the article. Metcalf pushed Anthony, according to witnesses who said Anthony then pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the chest. Okay. Yeah, there you go. You got the video for us. And welcome, Amber, in the chat. Told y'all you'll never know who pops up in the chat. Hey, Amber.
So it's 18 minutes. We can either play it on speed or you can stop whenever. We can stop whenever you want. But
yeah. When we see something juicy, we can go. And
my name is John Roach.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my bad.
No, I was gonna acknowledge Amber's super chat for $5.
Oh.
Miss you guys. Miss you too, Amber. See you soon.
Amber must be baller. She could just send us some money and sit. Or maybe me and Laura not getting paid for this Amber show, and maybe it's Amber that's getting paid, and maybe she trying to give back for that $5. So if Amber is really a comrade, she'll pay more. You know what I mean? Even though it's still going back to the comrade. What's up, Amber?
Yeah. Yeah, what's up, Amber? What's up, Zenzi? Good morning.
I know the answers to that. I know the answer to that question, but I got to ask it for the record.
100%.
You've been on the bench for some time.
Yep, I've been on the bench for about 20 years.
20 years, and this is the end.
And then 6 months will be in the end.
Did you want to take on this trial?
I wanted the Collin County Judiciary to take on this trial. It was important to me to have somebody from Collin County preside over this Collin County case. So I didn't ask for it. No one. That's not how it works anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it, but I was certainly willing to do it because that was my duty.
In your conversations with, I guess it's an administrative judge who goes, I know they go down the list and they say, all right, it's your turn and it's your turn. As they go through all the conflicts of judges that may potential conflicts, when they come and say, John, this may be yours, your first reaction is?
I'll take it. Every time. I think it's my job. It's my duty. That's what I was elected to do.
Yeah.
That's the oath that I took, and I'm going to do my job.
No consultation with your family?
None.
No.
Nope.
And where's that come from? I
don't know. I think it's just duty. I think duty, whether that's duty in the Marine Corps or just duty to my family and stuff, I take duty really seriously. And I take this job to perform that
Marine
duty.
Corps.
And if that's what I had to do, that's what I have to do.
His credibility.
Did you
so why would I talk to my wife and children?
The enormity of that decision and the outside stuff.
I don't know. I think in some ways I did. I think in other ways I didn't. I certainly knew it was very, very important case within our community. I didn't think I realized the enormity of the social media and the media during the trial.
How long have you been prepping for this trial?
I've been prepping for this trial with the departments, with the Collin County system, with the sheriff's office and everybody for about 8 months.
Is that the longest you've ever had to prep?
100%.
Why?
Logistics. One of the critical pieces of this case where we had minors who were testifying. Prior to me getting the case, we had some of those witnesses doxxed and swatted and revealed on social media. I didn't want that to add to the already traumatic event they've been through. And I didn't want them to change their testimony or be uncooperative with people trying to call them as witness out of fear. And so my number one duty at that point in time getting the case was to how do we protect those minors who are critical to this case to come and testify.
Okay.
I'm sure you've already read and know that one of your fellow judges has already been doxxed and swatted and all the things.
I did know that.
And still no reluctance from wanting to take it on.
None.
Yeah. The decision to not have cameras or any kind of streaming, was that an easy one?
Yes, it was an easy decision. And I'll tell you why. My primary goal in any case is to make sure that the defendant and the prosecution gets a fair trial, period. I have seen from other cases around the country where cameras in the courtroom changed the way that the judge acted, the lawyers acted, some of the witnesses acted, and we were not going to have that here. We were going to really isolate the purpose for which we were here for, which is to have that fair trial, and cameras in the courtroom did not enter into that equation at all.
How much grief did you get from people around you about that decision?
I don't know. I don't listen to it. I just flat don't listen to what's going on the outside. I do what I think is right, no matter what decision that is. And I sleep well at night knowing if I follow the law, then everything works out like it's supposed to. And so these outside influences always from the outside. I really isolated myself from that in this case and in all cases, and just do my job the best I can.
Do you have a personal relationship with the Metcalfs?
I wouldn't know Mr. Metcalf prior to this trial if he walked up to me and said hello. I don't know the Metcalfs. I sympathize with the Metcalfs and what they've been through and all, but I don't know them personally. Never have.
So these AI images emerging of you and them at a party or drinking together, all
Never
of that.
happened. And that's the problem with social media, isn't it? You can't tell what's true and what's not true. I will tell you, I got some reports of some things that were coming out of this courtroom, and I wondered to myself, were they even in the same courtroom that I was? It's that bad. And I think that's tragic because I think really if you just listen to the case based upon the facts, you'd understand it so much better.
Do you think it reinforced your decision to not have cameras or streaming inside this?
Sort of. I will tell you this. Sometimes I think maybe I should have at least the audio streamed or something so people could hear it. But at the end of the day, I don't think no matter what, people are going to distort whatever happens or whatever they hear into their own agenda. And so what's the point? And again, that noise affects people, affects the fairness of the trial, the safety of the witnesses, the safety of the jury. And those are my primary concerns, not what social media says. And it's not my duty. I don't think it's my job to feed social media or the media stuff. I certainly understand the role that media plays in a case like this, but I'm not here to feed it. And I took that very, very seriously.
But Judge, when people don't have access to the trial or the courtroom, doesn't it invite speculation?
Well, sort of, but I got 70 seats in my courtroom, and I had 200 requests by the media to sit in the courtroom. So let's say if I just entertain the press, then I have nobody from the public watching what's going on in their county. And so I had to do a balance between the media's right to know and to be able to report what's going on, because I think that's extraordinarily important. I think it's important that the general public had access to the courtroom and to see what was going on. And so I tried to balance all those things with the primary, again, purpose of having a fair trial. And I think I struck that balance pretty well.
But the media's right to know is the public's right to know. I mean, is the public's access. We are the extension of that public.
I think somebody from the public who wanted to come watch a trial and know that they were excluded from a trial because all the media was there, I beg to differ.
Do you think there was a possibility for a learning experience? I mean, people
did not change their testimony. They were willing to come in and tell the truth without fear of being doxxed or swatted and stuff. And so I took every precaution that I could, consistent with the law, to make that happen.
I know Steve brought it up to you, and I know there's going to be a lot of scrutiny over voir dire, and you denied the defense. And the dismissing of 3 jurors who at least identified as African American on their bioforms.
Here we go. Okay.
What did you make of that moment?
Well, that's not exactly how it works. The defense didn't dismiss them.
I'm sorry, the defense raised an objection.
They raised an objection, yeah. They have raised an objection. Like I told you before, as long as I follow the law, I sleep well at night. And I'm telling you, I follow the law in that case. Did I know what the perception was going to be? Sure. I knew in the back of my mind what the perception was going to be. But I'm not here to satisfy perceptions. I'm not here to satisfy.
I'm not here to use judgment. I'm just a judge.
I'm not here to do any of those things. I'm here to follow the law. And I did it to a T. And I'm proud of that. Very proud of that.
Is this your last big trial?
It's my last big trial. The sad part about it is, I will tell you before I leave at the end of the year, I'll try a couple more murder cases, for example. The parking lot won't be full. The gallery won't be full of people watching the case. But we still have somebody who's died and someone accused of doing the killing. And it won't draw the attention that this case did. And their death is no less tragic than the tragic death of the young man in this case. And so, big trial, I guess, from an outsider's perspective, and the social media and the media interest in the case. But crime still happens in Collin County, and decisions based upon the law. And if we can do that, that's great. The influence of social media, I think, is going to continue to impact our communities everywhere. And I hope that we can rely upon our justice system to weed through the noise and find justice for everybody who comes through our doors.
Everybody.
This is a personal question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Do you understand why the legitimate media had to be a pain in your ass?
Legitimate media. There's this guy named Jobin, who I think was probably the worst of all of them. And no, I didn't understand how he could be that way.
This is painful to listen to.
Look, I absolutely understand the media's rolling together and met to make sure that Collin County was going to be a focus for a minute. And we wanted to make sure that everybody understood, number one, don't come around and mess with Collin County. And because we're here for a job, that job is to make sure that everybody gets a fair trial and everybody's safe. Everybody from facilities
he's
to IT,
himself.
to the audiovisual people. I've never seen a case.
You want that on the record?
Sure.
You will.
He asked me if we want this on the record.
They could go to Zoom like we did for a long time. They could, pick days that we weren't here, like on that first Tuesday. But it's up to them. It helped a lot that they cooperated. And by the way, that's one of the messages that I don't think I've been saying enough is what we did here was a well-oiled machine. I've never seen a case.
You want that on the record?
Sure.
He asked me if we want that on the record.
Okay. The case that we tried here in Collin County was a well-oiled machine. I mean, Collin County, it should be the model for high-profile cases from here on out. And that's because we started 8 months ago, and I met with anybody from facilities to IT to the audiovisual people to the sheriff's office. We constantly came together and met to make sure that Collin County was going to be a focus for a minute. And we wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, number one, don't come around and mess with Collin County. And because we're here for a job, our job is to make sure that everybody gets a fair trial and everybody's safe. And we wanted to go seamlessly. And one thing that does worry me a little bit is people go, oh, this was a 5-day case with the evidence. 5-day case, it must have been cut and dry. I don't know if that's true or not. It was 5 days because I wasn't wasting anybody's time. Our community needed to heal quickly. They needed this case over one way or another, but the case had to be fair first. But we accomplished that. But it was a gargantuan effort by every single person involved in Collin County and outside Collin County. And so we're very, very proud of our county, all of our employees, all of our elected officials, all of our judges, everybody in getting this case tried quickly because our community needed it to heal.
Yay.
So obviously there's a lot, and I know sometimes we are on the screen and we need to like quick and everybody whatever, but it's a difference between us commenting on and then like it just being the reality of people you have to deal with. But I think he said a whole bunch in terms of media, social media, that is worth talking about. But yeah, I'm sure I'm curious about initial thoughts. Obviously, the voice is horrible. It's a white man. At the end of the day, there's a black family, a black boy, whoever going to experience these white folks, whether it's a national story or not, right? So somewhere in your city right now, some shit probably happening that's not national. But any thoughts you got?
Yeah, no, I think he said that explicitly. Like, he's like, there's going to be a lot more cases and they won't be on camera and they won't have all these people. And I'm like, yeah, that's what concerns me because this is how you act when you got scrutiny on you. So I can't imagine when we're not paying attention how you do it. I think this is an example of how the system self-selects for white supremacy. Like, it doesn't have to be anything explicit. He could just speak in the code of the dominant legal system as it exists and it works fine. You know what I mean? I think about a lot how we talk about the Klan and how much of white civil society they made up, like the police officers, the judges, the county clerks, the realtors, the teachers, the social workers in the city, all could be Klan behind the scenes and after work go and put on a white, hood and go to meetings. And I think in this era, it's clandestine, exactly. But you don't even have to, I don't think you have to do that to have that white supremacist ideology, not foreclosing the possibility, right? But this dude is a white Marine, probably Republican. Like, the stuff I see on Fox News, I don't know how often you have to see it, but when I go into certain places, white establishments, maybe get some food, whatever, and they got on Fox News at these places, and the stuff they're saying on the screen, I'm like, this is the Klans, they're fine. They got a news network. So this random white, probably Republican dude who's listening to Fox News every morning, if I had to guess, only has to say things like, I'm following the law, fair trial, protecting children. He's saying all the talking points. And what does it mean at the end of the day? It means you're a well-oiled machine that puts black boys in prison. Like, whoop-de-doo. You don't have to say your racism. You don't have to say blah, 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 blah. But this is how I know a lot of people would talk. And I know a lot of people would be convinced by how he just keeps staying on message. I'm being fair. I didn't want to waste people's time. Blah, 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 blah. I follow rules. But the most obvious contradiction we saw was when discussing why the 3 black jurors were dismissed. And it's just like, oh, well, this is my right. I had a feeling in the back of my head. I know how this is going to be perceived, but like, what about? Why is it about perception? What was the reason for dismissing them? So it's a lot of my initial thoughts. Not much critical thinking, as someone said in the chat.
Yeah. So there's a few things that Marimba Ani in the Urugu talks about. Like she's trying to develop Kiswahili words or African words that define phenomena. She came up with the Mayafa as opposed to the Black Holocaust. But the rhetorical ethic was this word that when white people say a word so many times, they're only saying it for like law and order for you, but it's not for them to keep, right? So everything can be relative. And people in the African Center movement always ask the question, if you're taking a world history course, you should always ask world history according to who, right? Kind of pointing to the point of what we said about primary sources. Like, how the fuck is the world history course going to be, the primary source is going to be the white boy who got the last name of the damn plantation? Like that's kind of like interesting. And so when they say words like fair trial, and all this other stuff, presented the facts and all this other stuff. I think that's interesting, but I'm curious what you thought about the social media argument, right? So here we are on social media, and we in this advent of social media where you can get information from Palestinian people. So, for instance, the young sister from Burger King who said "Free Palestine," and I don't know if this is AI, but if this is possible, the Free Palestine. It was said that the people in Palestine drew a mural of her, right? And so now you can get information from dead people, and people can tell their own stories. I write what I like, type shit. But you also can get AI that do misinformation. So I'm curious what you thought about his handling of what he kept saying about the media, corporate-owned media versus social media. Like social media will make things worse as opposed to make things public. But I'm curious.
Yeah. I actually, again, that's why I said if people were to see that interview, they would think he's like a reasonable dude. I know some people in my family that would probably think like, oh,
Black folks.
he's reasonable. He's not like as bad as the
Fair.
other, folks. Right? He just followed the rules. So I already know that kind of thing. And because he's saying stuff like that, an old person talking about, AI and shit isn't a shocker anymore. Right? It's like the constant thing they're saying, even though they're well, that's maybe why, because they're like the number one victims of it. But just being like, oh, you can't believe everything on media anymore. It's all AI. It's all AI, right? Yes. And see, everything is not AI. Like quite a few things are still real. So just saying that is just another way of trying to hold the line of objectivity. And I think when Marimbani's strongest in that work, she is critiquing the European reason, right? Broadly speaking, because we know Europe is a continent and all these things, with certain similarities we see, particularly from colonizers and colonizer countries in Europe. So I'm objective. I'm a rational, stoic man with no emotions. I just follow the rules, semper fi. Like that's a common European patriarchal colonizer mentality. And so, no, you're not objective. You're not unbiased. You clearly have all of those things. I had to see your little military flag folded in a triangle behind you as a signal to how much you serve this country and all of those things. So,
right,
yeah, man.
Everybody got an agenda. Everybody got an agenda except the nigga who joined the most oppressive force on the fucking.
Yes.
Bitch, you don't got. What are you talking about?
Everyone's biased except me. Exactly.
The U.S. military, like, what the fuck is he talking about?
I'm the neutral one. That's also how the liberal moves. Although this person might be conservative, but liberalism's a broader umbrella. But this idea, like everyone's biased but me. I'm just the perfect center. Everything is actually to my left and right. I'm the perfect middle every single time. I do find people who position themselves that way funny.
Also, there was a couple times when, again, this is all stuff that everybody, all 140 people in the chat and the two of us could all just like spit out, critically think. Because whenever the person said a comment, there's no critical thinking. Well, all of y'all will argue that there's always critical thinking on this platform, right? And maybe, I don't know, in the chat. I know the chat will. But again, the majority of people, I'm just not really sure if you could just think that people can look at something and have a media analysis that y'all all have built up to have so often. But the argument around the courtroom stuff, when he said, I don't know, 75 seats or however how many seats he had, and he was like, the media wanted 200 of them. What did you think in terms of like, should it just be filled with media and the type of media that should be represented, or should outsiders be able to come in the courtroom? Like, I wonder if you were to argue a fair trial, like how would you have made it fair? Now, I obviously know that the first argument around race is not a thing. Like that shit should have been smashed out. Like nobody should ever say that shit in the world. But what do you think about the comment around the courtroom?
No, I actually thank you for reminding me of that comment. That was one that stood out to me as well. Like to my point about fake objectivity, was the discussion of how both lawyers in the article would not use race, because obviously that's the harder thing to prove in the courts and in this so-called objective system. is racial discrimination. So they're going to like, no, we're going to argue this on the merits of the case. I already know both of these people had a strategy session. This becomes the thing of this white system is you have to follow its rules, its logic. So it's not about telling the truth. People will tell you that all the time. One of the first things about these score systems is not about what's true, it's about what you can prove. Oh, I just want to get you in and out. I just want to get you off the case. We're going to do whatever it can. Oh, you should just take a plea deal. It doesn't matter if you're guilty or not because it's going to be better for you. And blah, blah. Like all of this shit that's just about how to get the best result possible within this broken system and not about actually addressing the broken system. So that was one of the things I thought was interesting. Yeah, they're not going to talk about race because even though Metcalf's father literally called Carmelo the watermelon felon and said all this racist stuff, that's inadmissible, or that's blah, 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 or some other technical white man loophole as to why we can't talk about race in this case. So they already are like, yeah, I need to get the most I can out of this. We know that this angle historically doesn't work in court, so we're going to try to win it by the book, quote unquote. For the media thing, this is what I mean. We talk about like Black Agenda Report, Glenn Ford, folks actually having a tradition of journalism locally and nationally. There, of course, should be press in there. Does it need to be 200 people deep? No, obviously the public should be allowed into the trial too. But we should have things that aren't just corporate media, actual local news in Collin County, and not the kind that we have in Miami. We're going to get some Miami Herald stories today. And they should be a respected force in the community that people go to for information. And then, yes, have 5 or so, even if you want to do the balanced perspectives and have a mainstream paper or tabloid paper, whatever. But absolutely, certain spots should be reserved for press. But the fact that we're even debating this is ridiculous, right? But this one guy who has lifetime appointment, mind you, he's like, this is my last case. I've been here for 20 years. Lifetime appointment. No, barely any way to review these people, barely any way to check that kind of power. And he's the one who just gets to make all of these crucial decisions about this boy's life. So,
yeah.
I'm
always curious how, like, you know, a anti-communist environment who says that I don't know, like U.S. propaganda, like between stateless and being states and the governments and private, like I feel like they contradict you all the times, right? But when people said systems of accountability, whether it's cameras, he said that if camera was in the room, people will act different and show for the camera, right? So this is the offset that. Here's an example. One time, like our meetings, our monthly meetings are recorded, but it's kept in the community for us to document. And they said they won't share the video because somebody might make it public. But then the guy was like, "Well, actually, I don't know if it's a bad idea because if people knew that some of these things can go public, then they will act better. They wouldn't act ass." And so I wonder how you, I don't know, maybe it's a philosophical argument, but like what, in terms of media, recording, surveillance, and all this other stuff, like what do you think that he was saying about, you know, it being private versus what you probably believe should be the case for all, especially in the place we're at right now? It's not like we live in a place where we can trust people to like do and think the right things. Like we still having an argument around earn your leisure type shit, right? People still believe financial literacy is what poor people should. Anyway, but I'm curious about.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's the idea of, I even think of Renee's work on Saturdays on the body cameras. And, right, well, to Esme's point, I do think having a record certainly helps, right? It's a lot of times better than not having anything at all. But if the system is already designed with so many, you know, trap doors and levers and things like that, as we're seeing, to be stacked against you, then it just becomes another thing that, again, it might be helpful, but in a lot of cases, it can be misused. They already have a bunch of dynamics set up to make it so that even that doesn't help you get what you want. So the body cams example comes up to mind for me. Obviously, again, I still agree that transparency is necessary. But in this media environment, yeah, they can misclip stuff. They can say it's AI, all of those things. So that's my kind of view. I think on the one hand, we need the transparency. It can be useful for some people. Obviously, like we just said, press should be allowed. But if the system is set up that they're going to just say, well, look, he was resisting anyway, or all of those other things, then what does it do?
Do you think it's fair to argue like who owns the surveillance is the question? Like, so for instance, if something happened to your loved one, you would want to know, if you needed to find them or whatever. Like, so if the people had those things, because even they argue around this thing around China that I still need to read up on, and I know you sent me the article.
Right, that there's a lot of this is one of the most surveilled areas in the world.
No,
is,
Denzel sent me the Belt and Road, but that social score they was talking about how like if you like hit and run or you hit whatever, like that's gonna impact your social score or whatever. So publicly, if somebody does harmful shit and privately, but in publicly they present themselves to be whatever, like you're never gonna see the harmful shit that they do if it's all private. So like I wonder if your argument is the surveillance, who owns the media, the cameras, the data, whatever is more important than privacy?
Absolutely. And I think you already mentioned something earlier. I do. I know the social credit score is another one of those things that was taken in Western media and blown up out of proportion. China's got a bajillion Muslims in concentration camps and spies on everyone, and you can only have one kid, but they also produce a billion kids. All the myths that get slammed together about this country. But I do acknowledge that they have a society where socially they are able to adjust for all sorts of like maladaptive behaviors and things that in the West it's just not happening, right? So I just appreciate that in general. Like you said, a system where if you hit and run on somebody, you can't be an ICE officer, like what happened in Broward, for example, very recently, is important. I do think that's very important to have. But to your point about who controls the surveillance and where, I did want to raise that story you mentioned about the Burger King employee getting fired for saying Free Palestine. Because again, how do we have that video of that person in the first place? We live in a surveillance culture. You have your phone, everybody can record everybody, you're being surveilled by cameras in the job site. You're being surveilled by the machine if you work in fast food that tracks if you burn in the chicken nuggets or taking too long on somebody's fries. So surveillance is a constant thing. But as you pointed out, who's in control of the particular surveillance? So with that story, no, not everything is AI. Again, I think we were saying with the judge, he gets to just say, oh, I'm the arbiter of truth, and you just can't believe everything out here because it's AI or whatnot. So let's check out this story. Burger King employee was fired for saying Free Palestine. And then this piece down here, this is how Palestinians honored her.
Okay, Ariana.
Ariana Hamilton was fired from her job after saying Free Palestine to a customer in Pennsylvania. She raised over $243,000 after her said she collected money. A mural being created of her. And so
we didn't hear you.
So she lost her job for confronting a customer. And again, how do they know that? Because it was recorded. So I think that gets to your question about who controls the surveillance and under what conditions. I think that's beautiful. That's brilliant. I love that the mural was there. I think I've heard some critiques about that being performative, quote unquote, when
What
people do that sort of thing, the mural of that woman saying "Free Palestine" and Burger King and all of that. Uh, I don't
performative?
necessarily agree. Yeah, I don't agree with that critique. I can see how somebody could construe it this way, but we always talk about like the battle of ideas and the propaganda war. So if folks are going viral for spreading an idea about Palestinian liberation, for standing up to crackers and Zionists in their workplace, and people in Palestine are seeing that and honoring it, you know, even if it's just a mural, just a mural. I think that's very important in the battle of ideas. So I think that's an act of solidarity.
I,
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, second stories, a lot of people do think things are performative, and in the era we live in
but
with social media, yeah,
I,
there is.
think I think that's interesting though, because whoever is critiquing on the left that something's performative, like I would assume that as an organizer or a political educator or whoever, like there's a lot of performative shit that they do, and so just saying something performative doesn't. It's like maybe people are intending to perform. That's what fucking culture workers do. They perform, right? So
Hmm.
sure. What's the political message of the performance, nigga? That's what I want to know. I don't really care about. So because again, like at the same time, there's a lot of niggas that just be performative, and you trust them as an analysis or as a radical. I've heard many of people call people who are literally performative revolutionaries. So at some point, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. You can't. We can't be this jaded. If that's even being jaded, I think that's just not being dialectical or a critical thinker. 100%. Yeah, the point, culture workers perform. That was bars. Absolutely, that was. I think a great summary for what needs to happen. And yeah, I think it is a sign of being self shaming a little bit, of not taking it seriously as a struggle, and then just not being in touch with the enemy's narrative, right? Like the propaganda war that we have out here that is constantly saying the watermelon, like that's what the right calls them. That's what the quote unquote anti woke people call them, the watermelon people, right? So you have right wingers who say that. You have reactionary folks in certain communities who talk about, well, what do we got to do with them over there, or they're brown over there. Um, you got Frank Wilderson III saying that Palestine could be free tomorrow and would do nothing to advance Black liberation. That's a direct quote. That's a direct quote. Go watch Jared's interview where he said that. So in that kind of climate, then yes, Palestinian people showing solidarity with Africans and Africans showing solidarity with Palestinian people needs to be recorded and spread widely.
Yeah, I again, if you can call something performative, then that means you should be recorded, and then you can tell if the person performing or not. Because I think Zinzi said the point is, bro, like if you sit in a room for an hour, even with this camera, like when we be on a camera for a while, sometimes niggas do forget that. Like sometimes I forget, like I'm on, and then it shows or whatever, and so if I'm performing or acting, you can call it out, but then you can be like, okay, this is why he performing. And so like so sure, like there's literally no logic to anything that man said other than that he wanted to suppress information. And like look how you know what this remind me of? It looked like, hey, we just showed y'all how to be uh white pathological idiots and how to protect the white boys' interests. We showed y'all that, and so y'all should like learn from us. It's similar to Andre Dickens. I know it's different, but similar to Andre Dickens, he's mad as shit that the DNC is not coming to Atlanta. We don't prove ourselves. Why y'all messed up? Y'all should come see us. And I'm
It's a
like,
tier one city, brother.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I mean, maybe I'm like a little bit, but I didn't know that was a thing. Like, like the city's mad and competing over the DNC coming to them, and like Atlanta, Atlanta having this, struggles with national news and entertainment and politics or whatever. But like Andre almost sounds like he's gonna be at the Green Party next week because he's so mad at the Democrats because they're not having the convention. But yeah, so like Yeah, the white
He'll
boy
fall
was.
back. He'll fall back in line at the next luncheon they invite him to. But it is funny when they get mad when they do the little tap dance and they don't get the pat on the back.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. When the way he responded to EYL on Breakfast Club was kind of funny though. He was like, "Y'all got it backwards." He said, "Y'all overcharging people for them tickets. Maybe we could talk about a CBA or something, right?" So y'all bringing this money to the city, but we gonna get some of that money. And
Yeah,
everybody's on the city spend on that, so it's interesting.
yeah,
But yeah, the moral for me is like it would be interesting how we continuously collectively engage in media work, and then um it also lastly I'll end here because how do you feel about or how do you tell your students or younger people about social media? Because this is either like it's the grand thing of age of information or it's all wrong, kind of like what since you also saying all AI is not bad, but how do you um share with your students or young people how we should engage with the internet or social media? And
you got me missing my youth now because I haven't done a circle with youth in a minute. But um, similar to the men's circle concept, like we apply circles to all sorts of spaces. I think one of the easiest ways to talk to youth about social media is to actually just talk to them about it, like to sit and watch. Like my niece just sat down and watched AI. Yeah, thank you, Zenzi. Exactly. They probably know more about it than you do. So I sit and I watch the AI, the voice. I know the voice. And if you've listened to like AI TikToks, you know the voice I'm talking about. I know the AI voice now that narrates like these videos and things like that. So um, part of what I do is just see what do you like? Like, why do you like it? We're children of the internet, so we're in that interesting era where we got to see it become a thing. So I'm like, oh, this looks kind of similar to something I used to like or whatnot. So in a circle space, you could just do that. You could ask them to, what are you on? Is Instagram for old people? Am I old now? I ask those kinds of questions and just start hearing certain information. And a lot of times they're already critical or they have experiences with it that will let you know the dynamic that's at play with how they interact with social media, how their peers interact with it, things like that. So I would say that's the easiest. And then you can always frame it around a certain question if you want to get to a particular topic. So ours was, how do you know someone's a friend? And so that became a discussion. And then discussions about standards of friendship that you see on social media or fun challenges that people want to do with their friends and that kind of thing are how we had that conversation. And I thought was really helpful. So I think that's just how you meet people where they are and then ask what they like. But when you want to get into the critical element of things, I think what we do on Remix is a good example where we could just start with an actual video that's going viral and ask people like what they think about it. Like that Burger King video would be a perfect example. Asking youth like, hey, the people are saying this is AI. What do y'all think? And then they can go through and say, oh no, that's not AI because boom, boom, boom. Then we could go from our perspective and say, well, this is Al Jazeera. What is Al Jazeera? How do you vet news sources? All of that. It can always be a learning exercise. But I just think picking a topic and then meeting people where they're at is the best way to go. How about you? How you talking to your youth about social media?
yeah, so I think as you was talking, I was thinking about the game telephone, right? Like you remember being able to tell everybody something and to get to the end. If the message is long, you're gonna lose some of it,
Yeah.
right? But then people only gonna remember what resonate with them. And then when everybody share what they said, you probably can piece the story together. You hear what everybody said. But if you listen to one person's experience of hearing the thing, so it's kind of the same thing with like social media. Like you still have to investigate primary sources and understand where
Yeah.
things come from. Me and
Mhm.
Ricky Ryan did that a while ago. The ignorance is bliss, like where that came from. And so, like, I like to send students to exercises. Like, even if the internet says this is the first time this thing was said or whatever. Like a lot of times, you can kind of find where it was said, how, and then you can
Yeah.
go to archives in that place and actually see a whole lot of things, right? And so, and again, I don't remember if I told you the story, and I'm sorry if I shared the story publicly, but did I tell you about like when I went to the what's that man name that they say he was a Christmas addicts? Did I tell you when I went to that museum or the museum in my like in
This sounds
Pennsylvania?
familiar, maybe, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
but like pretty much they had Christmas addicts, and then they had like the police right next door, right next to the lady who was murdered from South Carolina. But some of the narratives is like most one person is not going to tell you to be critical, but even if that person tell you to be critical, then you should also be critical of them. And kind of like that Harrisonian argument is study a thing and then study people who know it differently, 10 people who know it differently, and then you have like a bigger picture. So like I always tell them like, yo, yeah, you can get information really fast, right? Like I could be like, who sells jollof in Dunwoody? You might find that really quick, but you might still go there and find out that it's not good jollof.
Yeah.
Or
I
or or
think
or, or they might center Ghanaian jollof. I'm about to make some niggas mad. They might center Ghanaian jollof as the best jollof out there, but like you would have to experience all the jollof to be like, yeah, this one makes the most sense.
yes, I always I haven't had enough Jollof to participate in that debate, but I've enjoyed Ghanaian and Nigerian, so I'll let the diaspora wars fight that one on the continent. The fight I'm having is who has the best mac and cheese in the diaspora, specifically among Caribbean and African American folks, because it's a clear number one to me. But I appreciate
Well,
Jamaica and Haiti's delusions and thinking that they got the the number one. I done had Jamaicans tell me they make the best mac and cheese. I done had Haitians tell me they make the best mac and cheese. Yeah, all right. Senegal's into the chat for the Jollof argument, so cool. They can have the Jollof bowl between
Zizzy been
Senegal,
right all day today. Zizzy ain't missed a day. She ain't missed a day. That's the only day.
Nigeria, Ghana. They can have the Jollof thing. Jamaica, Haiti, New Africa, specifically the U.S. We got African Americans got mac and cheese. I'm sorry, I refuse to. Haitians got a good. Y'all did something crazy. Y'all cook crazy. Haitians.
Wait, there's a
Good
Haitian
second
mac and
place. Whoa! Oh yes, Geechee. We got it. Well, because you're vegan, we would have to figure out how to make that for you. But yes,
listen,
there is Haitian mac and cheese, and
and
it's
I was
pretty
about to
good.
say, I was about to ask you which one the
And we
cow
got
puss mac.
slander in the chat. We already got no, Geechee. We gotta address these. We gotta address these contradictions because we already got people who are in the chat. You can be wrong. Opinions can be wrong. This is an incorrect opinion. Haitian mac is not better. Thank you,
Not
Shirley.
because Black Liberation
African
Media is the
Americans.
media that white
We're gonna
people talk
remove
about.
that US flag and put the red, black, and green. But yeah, we got the best mac and cheese in the diaspora.
Extra
Argue with your
seasoning.
mama. I ain't doing that.
Hey man,
Thank you. Our Puerto
so
Rican comrades already, our Bori family already said we got it. So I
there's a little I keep talking about him too, but there's a little white boy who be walking around New York making beats and making music. And Diallo brother was on there at one time recently. He sent us a clip. So
really.
yeah, it was
I
pretty
gotta,
interesting.
I gotta see that. Sugar
Yeah,
Shed, you cracking me up. Been married to a Jamaican for almost 40 years, and I can say without a doubt, mac and cheese sucks. Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it.
my bad, dog. I ain't mean to send y'all down that food war.
Oh, I didn't start like you started with the Jollof. The diaspora wars already started.
But basically, what I'm saying is that's why I tell them to investigate things, and you got to go, and then you have to give your reasoning.
Back to thank you.
You got to give your reasoning, right? So, for instance, if you like seasoning, you like so much seasoning that the salt make your eye twist, like then you might say the salt is good, right? And then even the things that you say taste good is also propaganda. Like good to you might be greasy fat. You're like, that tastes good, and good is relative. So sometimes you got to examine all of the stuff. I like tart, sour, lemon, pepper, tahini. I put tahini on almost every damn thing. I like kale. So good to me. Like I would throw up at some people's good. You know what I mean? Like it's highly oiled and salty. Like I would pass the hell out. So I don't know.
Hey man, and I not too much on the Jamaicans. There's a Jamaican spot in Harlem It was a chain, but they made some dope mac and cheese. So,
But
you know,
but I'm a peacemaker, but I'm gonna say this: Ghanaian, Ghana, y'all need to stop just making jollof. Just stop low out. Just take a little time. Just make fufu and
get back
banku.
in the kitchen. You said get back to
Yeah,
the lab.
I'm just saying, don't just stop making it. Just focus on banku and fufu and
That's
agusi. Like,
crazy.
don't do the jollof no more. Just let somebody else handle that shit there. Like
Listen,
y'all
cultures can evolve, Ichi. They
nah,
might,
chill out
they
for
might.
no Ghanaian people need to chill out on jollof for a little while. Yeah, like y'all need to just stop for a little while. Just
Man,
take your time.
I'm
After the
glad we got here. I'm glad we made it to these important stories that we cover on Friday Remix. I will say your original analogy I thought was dope. The game of telephone. Um, think it's yeah. I think that's a solid way of explaining it. Yeah, just like doing that kind of exercise, I think would be cool. I think Marcus said it sounds like that Lauryn Hill skit. Yes, I love that. Y'all have probably seen me on here wearing my Lauryn Hill shirt, but I do love the little skits at the end of the tracks in Miseducation where they're talking to kids and they're like, "What is love?" And you get to hear the audio recording the kids talk about love is da 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 da. When the man, I love that. I love it. So absolutely, I think that is the best way to ground with people, especially if you're trying to build knowledge collectively or teach them a lesson. So the telephone game, yeah, I would say the same thing. Do y'all even play this game? Am I too old? And then we could try it out, and then we could show how with social media it's that, because they definitely will only take very very short clips out of context, play them back, or you won't even pay attention to the whole story. So I think that's a really good way to discuss media with the youth. All right. We have anything from the chat? We got our donation from Amber mentioned a little earlier.
I know me and Lorg is an educator, y'all. So I be in there, feeling like I'm in class. But this is my last one for real, and I know this is probably separate, but I've been like struggling with, especially because of Cumby stuff, this concept around literacy, right? Which I know it's good to rate, like if people can, but remember, people who Fred Douglass comrades couldn't write or read, but they could communicate and they were very intelligent, right? Same thing with Gullah people. Like they specifically had this capacity to know a lot of things, but they might not speak English in a way that's legible. And so they call that literacy. So I wonder if you look at literacy, or can you explain literacy uses as a cultural tool the same way the what's the IQ test they be telling people?
Stanford Benet or
Yeah.
IQ. I mean, yeah, even that history is
because you can have a conversation with somebody who has broken English, Creole Spanish, which is more reasons why I want to learn about a group of Spanish people who speak Creole English and Creole Spanish and Spanish, Black people. But yeah, like, what's your thoughts around
I
this?
mean, that's an interesting question. I think I've talked about literacy before as there's technical skills to reading, right? Although we all learn it in our own ways, and then language determines even how you learn to read, and there's all sorts of unique variations in individuals that affect how they read too. So one of the things when I was doing research on reading that I asked people is, do you have a voice in your head, Ichi, when you read that like actually says the words out loud, like when you're looking at the screen? If I see Haitians got best mac and cheese, rice, and everything, Esme, you're incorrect, but I will take the donation. But when you read that that sentence, do you have an internal voice, Ichi, when you read?
So for me, I don't know if it's an internal voice, but like I get like nervous, a lot nervous when I speak, because remember when I was younger, like I used to speak a particular way, and then throughout high school and especially in college, like I used to be. People try to embarrass you for speaking like the way you speak, and so a lot of times I'm like really trying to make sure I can say the word correct, because like I'm more comfortable speaking how I speak when I'm home. Like it just and the words that I know that I've grown up with, that my grandma, like for example, when I was reading how Harriet was talking to the Gullah people, I read sound like my grandmama that live in 41 right now. Bono. Like, so like I don't know. I think I have like sometimes I have a like you know,
Mm-hmm.
I be confused by um the language or whatever. So maybe I might be like
Right.
subconsciously.
So when I see literacy in education, that's what I'm thinking about. Actually, the process of cognition, and then how that affects people's interpretation of language, and then ability to do this thing, which is reading. Right. So are you comprehending the words on the page as the author on the page intended them? Because it's a form of communication. And so when you say literacy, that's where my mind goes. Now it's not where everyone's mind goes, but that's why I asked that question about the internal voice. What are the unique kind of ways that you read? Do you have any actual neurological things like dyslexia that affect your ability to interpret letters on a page and stuff like that? And so I really do think it's just a specific skill about people's ability to interpret written language. And that gets applied to all these other fields, which creates confusion, like financial literacy or tech literacy, or when you add any sort of adjective onto the literacy thing. So, in the process of reading and helping people learn how to read, I think literacy is its own very important field with a lot of research behind it about, we grew up with hooked off on phonics or schoolhouse rock and sorts of things that teach people structures, mnemonic devices, ways to help kids who struggle with a particular form of reading. Like some people can read internally and then struggle to say it out loud and those kinds of things. So that's how I approach literacy. But again, once you start adding things like financial to that thing, you've completely kind of transformed what I'm talking about into something you're going to loosely try to apply elsewhere, right? Because financial literacy is going to be about whether or not you know the basic spending habits that you need to work in this U.S. economic system, like this savings bond increase by this percent per year, or that kind of.
I mean, literacy almost sounds like an honor among thieves argument, especially as it relates to how the Europeans have engaged with people here, right? So, like, because even people say, like, can you speak the king's English?
Right.
Not no other English. So, like, if you
Uh-huh.
speak any other English that has resistance to it, or there's some type of organizing mechanism, as people call code switching,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. It's almost like to Diallo's argument around broke, right?
Mhm.
At one point, people with no money and resources are here broke. But then they said and I don't know what evidence he used, but he said at some point you could say that people who take money is broke. That like their
Mhm.
spirit is broken. Like you would have to compromise yourself to get to a place. And so I think that's kind of the same thing with literacy because again, I know for a fact like my granddaddy had yards and yards of corn and he had pigs and had like and obviously he's more legible than other folks. But again, when I'm reading Frederick Douglass and I'm rereading like stuff around Harriet Tubman, like there was people who were literally called illiterate who were exceptionally brilliant.
Mhm.
And again, what I think people continue to fail, like this is fucking labor, bro.
Yeah.
Like these
It.
specialized people who have high skill to do fucking things, right? Fuck if
Mhm.
they can speak English, like, and then with the story, like because some of them was freshly brought over here to still grow Carolina gold, and they have like documented like the motherfuckers came speaking that language, like
Mhm.
so.
Mhm. It's just and it's just a skill. Like I think that's what demystifies it all. Just like, bro, if you never practice a piano, you can't play the damn piano. It's a skill. Like you have to learn it and practice it, like you said, with labor. So yes, there are people who could probably not in this era because the skills become so universal. But as Chidimaka says, there's a literacy crisis, and it's been going on for a very, very long time because this education system's terrible. But at the end of the day, people could have all sorts of skills. They could know how to grow and harvest rice and just have not been taught how to read. Just like a bunch of people sitting in office right now who know how to read probably don't know how to grow and harvest rice. So that's really, I think, what ends up being the thing is you're so pathologized for not having this particular skill. But all it takes is somebody who's an educator who has the skill to pass it along to you. And I'll close because you had something real quick. but there's Vygotsky is the name. This was a Soviet educator who wrote about like a socialist theory of education. It's not groundbreaking to me because it makes perfect sense in terms of how New Africans teach all the time. But the relationship between student and teacher is a dialectical one, meaning like you are simultaneously always a teacher and a student. So if I try and show a reading passage that's worked for all my other students, and this one student really can't get it, then as a teacher, I have the skills that I'm trying to pass along so I can pass those skills to that student. But I'm also learning because that student is showing me, hey, maybe this is something you assume was true about how people read that you were wrong about. Maybe you didn't understand. Maybe you've never had a dyslexic student. And so you learn for the first time as a teacher in the student role what it's like to instruct. So I just wanted to point that out as well, is that we're always in a relationship when it comes to literacy between figuring out how to best get people to be in the process of reading, but also learning why different people have different difficulties with reading and stuff.
Yeah. No, so I a couple things. I saw this. This was a dope ass idea, and I try to do this actually at lectures. So I wasn't able to do it at the Grenada conversation at Morehouse, but I tried. I was playing Calypso, but I tried to find people who can cook a particular dish so people can taste the dish while we talk about the people or the thing. But I think it would be dope if we try something like that. Maybe once a month we can. I don't know how we all gonna have it because we're gonna have different. We got,
So you gotta go to different stores.
you might have the Ghanaian jollof. I'm gonna have the anyway. But no, so one of the other things is like the confidence that I kind of tell you. Like sometimes, even as when I'm wordy, it's because I'm trying to like explain it in a way that I understand it this way, and then I'm end up like trying to use the right English words. But if you remember, African people, as they're working, the people who was dominating them spoke English and they spoke to each other in broken languages or whatever. But you could probably read or hear some words and you can disagree with what's being said. And because you disagree with being said, you can say they can call you illiterate. And really, you don't have the control of the English language to be able to explain why you know that is wrong. But again, even when I'm telling you, if you read Cumby or any of those stories, when you hear how the white people explain stuff and how African people very short with words and it's pretty clear, and then stuff like day clean and whatever, like I did this day clean, you don't have to be like, well, I had to do this or whatever in the evening and right before the sun come out. Like you just say day clean and we know what day clean means.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, I just think it's like I've been grappling with that, especially, and again, like it's always. I guess it always depends on the audience and the students because sometimes like you can assume how students gonna come, but I do think there's a general sense of like words that people use, and sometimes as we develop our analysis and our political sophistication, like we can kind of turn into like elitists or.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, these conversations that we have here, it's not like the average stuff you're talking about. Like I remember, when we was doing the food truck yesterday, talking to the brothers because I told one dude he invited me to this art place, and when I went to the art, and that's when I saw the Jimmy Carter, the Ted Turner, the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Fred Hampton. And I talked to the artist after because I was upset. Like I was kind of upset, like he did that shit. And then I was like, well, Erykah Badu said, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. And we all say that, and it sounds good, but the reality is, no, you shouldn't be sensitive about your fucking public art. That shit should be critiqued. And you should be comfortable with hearing the critiques of your public art. Because what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, don't justify not being critiqued by your art. Now, like, what the fuck are you talking about? So we was having that conversation while we was passing out the food. But there's different levels of political astuteness there that, they're just not privy to some of these conversations we have, and more so the language. Like the language is a whole nother thing, but the conversation and being able to participate and engage in the conversation, is another step from like words, knowing words and shit.
Yeah. One, I will say, thanks for the ideas in the chat. That's good Patreon content that I asked for food reviews. So I wanted to raise that. I think there is just in terms of expertise. Yeah, there are people who have specific technical knowledge about a field that if they're not in the conversation, there are things you probably shouldn't be saying confidently. With the vaccine conversation, I have a decent-ish science background, but that's not my field. I'm not a researcher in that kind of thing. So I would defer. I would try and ask experts. I would use arguments that I'm familiar with, that kind of thing. But I do think there's just certain approaches we can have to these conversations that will get us in the right spirit and the right track anyway. So one of the things is approaching things with curiosity and not shame. I think that's like a major issue when we talk about the average conversation. So much of it is laden with shame. Like, oh, you don't do this, or people have projecting their own internal traumas, all of that. When really, if you just approach the question with, oh, well, I don't really know how to read well. How could I get better? Right? Without adding shame to it. Or I wonder how people read, or are the kids struggling with reading? Not the kids suck at reading, not the kids are losing it, not the kids are only on tablets, but like, hey, are the kids struggling with reading? Yes or no? How can I help? What strategies work that improve reading? These are the ways I would like us to start approaching conversations. And I do think at the core of it, Ron said it, but criticism and self-criticism is a big part of that. Critiquing systems, self-criticizing your own limited capacity as a person or ways you can improve are just better. Because again, you don't have to be some sort of literacy expert or an educator to have a good conversation on this. And I think that's what you're saying about intelligence and where it actually comes from versus the hard skill of reading and literacy.
Yeah, I got a confession. I remix gallo pinto is a Costa Rican rice dish, and I make it better than the Costa Ricans because I add refried beans, hongos.
You're gonna say that with if no Costa Ricans are here to defend themselves in the chat.
Listen,
I want to hear it.
Answer with curiosity and not the curiosity. No, for real. Like I can make some. I can remix some gallo pinto. For real. I'm telling you.
I'll be the judge of that. So another point when it'll go into the Theory Thursday we did yesterday, but what you were saying as well about our language, right? And then you said no broken English, or stop calling our stuff broken. Right. A big form of resistance and survival for our people is preserving the languages, right? Preserving our quote unquote dialects, preserving African American vernacular English, Geechee languages, Creoles, all sorts of things, patois, right? So even that becomes something that when we talk about literacy, how fluent are you in your people's actual language? And I have this discussion sometimes with Haitians when I used to give out children's books. And they would ask me, do we have any books in French? Right? Even that is, so when we talk about literacy, even the colonized mentality has to be addressed, right? Like, why are you asking for French books when we have Creole books? And so that even becomes a thing with certain folks where you'll have young parents even who tend to want Creole because they're like, I wasn't taught Creole, that whole first generation kind of crisis. And I want to make sure that my kids don't lose what little I have. And then you have some older folks who are from that generation where it was just straight up colonized and you speak French and you have to know that properly. So I think in a literacy conversation, our own languages as New African people are important to preserve. And I think that's something that ties our struggle with the indigenous struggle. So that came up yesterday as well, forms of resistance that indigenous nations have dealt with, that New African nations deal with too. And Sazi, I don't know if you're still here. Referring to the event last night, the event was great. One of the BNB Chicago brothers was using a native point to try to argue against the New African struggle. That one of those BNB Chicago brothers actually is my brother, funny enough. And I don't know if you're still here, but that was a bit of a misinterpretation. He was actually in favor of the New African struggle, but had been struggling with a comrade who was trying to say that Native Americans weren't considered by the New African Independence Movement and things of that nature. And that's not true. So my brother, the BNB Chicago brother you're referring to, was going to the name Constitution and pointing out that New Africans always were in solidarity with indigenous peoples. And yeah, just wanted to address that.
Yeah, man. Oh, I didn't really. I meant to highlight this because I didn't want to skim past it around somebody. Yeah, like and we can have a. I don't know if that's what was coming off as in terms of normalizing surveillance. I think having a conversation around it in general, but yeah, I don't. Do you feel like we might have?
No. I know where the context was just coming up in the fact that we were saying it's everywhere, like in the Burger King convo. Like you're surveilled at work. People can just take out their phones and start recording you. And the we is always hard. You know what I mean? Like in terms of how much control do we actually have over this phenomenon? But absolutely, I talked about this in downtown Miami. Well, unless you're some sort of rich tech bro that can work remotely, or you got some other like boutique type of job, you can't afford to live in downtown Miami like that. So it's pretty much all filled with like I said, like tech bros, people who have like these boutique HR jobs and shit like that that pay well, and content creators. And so when we talk about the normalizing surveillance, if you can't walk down the street without four different people shooting content, without speed buying a damn content farm behind you, then like yes, we are normalizing like constantly being on camera for free in a lot of
Or
ways.
audio when you be like, Siri, cut off my stove.
That
Alexa.
is, yep. That was people love the Alexa. You got to turn the Alexa off. People
Google,
be talking to Alexa
do this
first
for
thing in
me.
the morning. Alexa lights. People love it, and I get it. This is the conditioning of it all. And then what we talked about with China in a different society, potentially. This doesn't have to be bad. We just know the capitalist society we live in, where all of this stuff is going to be sold to some tech company who knows your partner's on their period or some shit and is trying to shove medicine down your throat. Like this is the world we live in. So I think about that a lot. But it is cool because we grew up watching sci-fi and like the clapper, like turn the lights on with clapping. That used to be. Do you remember when that was like the thing? That in FaceTime, I remember on like cartoons and shit growing up was some of the biggest. Like this is the future. You can just talk to your house.
Listen,
All of those things.
I bet
So
you
I
there's
know
a
we got to
labor
do our show with Amber.
there's a labor in there, right? There's a labor argument because when that came in, all those domestic workers they had no job after this.
Yeah, no. That's yeah. Well, we have the whole thing about why we had to humanize these tech servants essentially, which it becomes a conversation too. But yeah, that's my point. Amber and I still got to do the Disney Channel movie thing, but Smart House is what I think we covered on this show before. So I think that's part of it. Like, who is the we that normalizes surveillance? It's kind of all over the place, and not particularly in one person's control. But I had this argument recently, not an argument because I was like, oh, okay, well, it's my right regardless. But TSA, when I was coming through Atlanta, was asking me, I said, I don't like the scan, the facial scan you have to start doing now once you show your ID and whatever. And I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that, blah, 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 blah. So I went up and the sister asked me when I said, no, I don't want to do it, why you don't want to do that? You know, you already have your license. So I'm just trying to make it make sense. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to get to my flight. I don't really have time to fully argue this with you right now. But I was asking, I'm like, where does this thing go? I was like, I don't know what this is. Y'all just, I told her, I was like, y'all just put this in last week. Like, do you know, did they tell you what this is? Like whose technology this is, blah, 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 blah. So that was just very, very funny to me because she was trying to show that I'm like a hypocrite or just trying to be extra. But I asked her, what's the history of this device? So yes, that is normalizing surveillance in a lot of ways.
So
And I just thought it was funny because her argument was like, well, you send your photo to the DMV. And I'm like, yes, well, I know where the photo is. It's with the Department of Motor Vehicles, which police have access to and all of that. But the alternative is I literally can't drive and get to work. So that's why I talk about the normalizing thing. Like, yeah, I have to get a license so that I can actually get to work and drive. But I don't know if that was me normalizing it or me just accepting that I need to do this thing so that I can do what I have to do. You know what I mean?
yeah, I just think every chance you get, just be clear on your intentions and your objectives and your agenda, whether you record it or not, and do what the fuck you say you're gonna do, and then you don't have to worry about being recorded or not being recorded. Just do what the fuck you who you are. There's really not much. not non-surveillance, whether it be phones or computers or this thing or that thing. Like,
Right.
do what the fuck you supposed to be doing, and
Yeah.
let's get free.
No, truly, and just from a focus on youth and education, I do have that argument every single time when I start hearing parents get into spaces with stakeholders, as they're called, but like parents and even like low level admin is always interesting because you can see some of them who are more critical as thinkers and care genuinely about the students' output, like I'm saying, and well-being. Kind of like the people I said approach the conversation with curiosity and not shame. But then you have also just very clearly people who are getting their talking points from somewhere else. And they'll say certain things. So when we talk about the kids and using tablets and again normalizing being surveilled, I'm always like, but the kids' textbooks are on tablets now. You know what I mean? Google and Microsoft invest tens of billions of dollars to make sure they have Google Classroom or that they're using Microsoft Outlook for their class emails and all of these things. So if these mega corporations are literally coming into your space and transforming how you're allowed to even study, because I had textbooks. I talk about that a lot. It was like a big tradition at my high school where you would go, you would stay out early, like camp out, and you would buy used textbooks so that you didn't have to go online and pay $60 for your Spanish workbook or something like that. You could just get somebody's Spanish book from last year. And if you get in there early enough, you can skim through and find who already did the homework and has the answer circled and shit like that, right? They destroyed that tradition. And then they gave the kids all tablets. And so I'm like, again, we're blaming the kids for being on the tablet, but the corporation is the one who made them do that. You know what I mean? They went to the school administrator. The kids didn't get any sort of say. I don't think they asked the class president, hey, Microsoft is offering us a new computer lab. Do you want it? Yes or no? Like it just, it happens. So I like to point that out a lot when youth get blamed for participating in this surveillance culture and tech and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, our classrooms now are fully Zoomized. We got like couple TVs, cameras everywhere, like so. But and a few of us are not like, we want to be in person. We don't really want to be. I know there's some benefits, like so. For instance, if you can't fly in when I need you to come to my class, we gonna zoom you in. But but the students is not about to be in on damn Zoom. Your ass need to just show up. Come walk your ass across that campus.
No, I agree. I do agree. And I think at the end of the day, creating an environment that's welcoming, creating incentives for students to actually show up to class is the best thing. I think that, of course, takes being a good instructor. And that ends up being the challenge. But just naturally, even there will be students who, if you do have that option, are going to go to sleep, turn on their laptop, turn their camera off, and just attend that way. That's just naturally, systems have natural weaknesses to them or natural contradictions. Yes, one or two students are going to not even read the syllabus and are going to just attend this thing virtually, and then they're going to show up and be like, oh shit, I forgot I was in this class, and ask for an extension. That happens. Focusing our entire energy and punitive system on that rare student ignores that there's a bunch of others who probably could have been incentivized to come to class and that kind of thing. So yeah. But
listen, man, I one of the things I appreciate is like the first few weeks is trying to know who's who and who gonna be your different types of personality. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I did have one video I thought was, well, there are a few stories. For the sake of our time, I'm not going to do two of them that are a little more intense, but one that is related. This video has been going around. It's been fairly viral. It came across my feed. I wanted to talk about it before we close out a little bit. So this is from Wrap Up. It says, never before seen footage shows a young Beyonce on producer's lap during Michael Jackson call. Rare footage from a scrapped early 2000s reality series shows a young Beyonce taking a call with Michael Jackson about a potential collaboration while seated on producer F. Mark Schaffel's lap. The resurfaced clip sparked a bigger conversation online about industry culture, boundaries, and what's considered normal behind the scenes at the time. All right, so this video, it's a little wild, a little hard to watch. Let's check it out.
And reaction niggas in the chat.
Yep, go ahead, react. This is what we're looking at.
All right, here we go. Come on over here. Here, you can do. You want to sit on? You want to make this easier? You can sit on my lap. Michael. Michael. Hi. Okay, we're in. Okay. All right, we're in the studio, and I have Beyonce sitting on my lap, and I'm gonna put you on speakerphone.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone to talk to her.
And his hand is on her thigh.
You're shaking. Okay, you ready? Okay, hold on.
Oh no, I'm gonna pass out.
Michael.
Yes, Mark.
Here we go. I have Beyonce here.
Hi.
Hi, Beyonce.
How you doing?
Oh, good. I really appreciate you doing this because we're giving back.
I'm very honored. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
But thank you. Brad Buxer is putting down the track now.
Right here, Michael.
Brad,
Yes.
you're putting down the track now.
Yep.
Yeah, Beyonce's going to go in the studio and lay it down now, and you're going to give her inspiration.
Michael, when she was listening to the track, she fell in love with it immediately.
Yes, I did. I love it.
You did?
Yeah,
Yes.
immediately, Michael.
It's wonderful.
She lit up, immediately from the very first line of the first verse.
But please don't, Beyonce. My voice.
Your voice sounds great.
You
Come on,
sound-
man.
He was getting over the flu when we recorded this.
You know, the flu. I had the
And
flu.
This
This is only his demo track for
That's how his voice sounds when it's...
Yeah.
Maybe that's not really Michael.
Wonderful.
No, that's Michael.
And the first line, I screamed. Literally, I screamed.
And Michael, she's, these guys can sing. She's going to nail this. This is great. So we're happening. The vibe couldn't be any better.
Let's get going then.
All right,
All
let's
right.
get going.
Love you, Michael.
I love you too.
All right,
Bye.
talk to you later, Michael.
Love you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was
He
tight.
gets very emotional over this project. He's
I'm happy I talked to
him.
Why he asked a white man to sit on the other lap so both of them can just sit on his lap? Why
Yo, bro, thank you. All right, this is some light work. Sorry we had to suffer through that. I had to suffer through it. And me and Geechee like to collectively punish. We have to suffer through something. Y'all gotta watch it with us. Yeah, Geechee, what are we doing? Like actually, I know there's a deeper story here. I am not the biggest Beyonce stan. Recognize her talent, big part of music I listen to from childhood to adulthood. So I'm not gonna act like I don't enjoy her music or things like that. But as far as getting into the lore and the behind the scenes on her family, I know certain things. I know the relationship with her father is strained. I know her mom had her in entertainment at a young age. So I think there's a grooming story that I'm sure is here.
Fairly innocent for who? Fairly innocent for her? Maybe she's innocent in she
this
might
case.
be fairly innocent.
Yeah, but my point is, so I'm sure people can tell me in terms of the family background, the sort of ecosystem and backstory that kind of made her susceptible to this.
I'm gonna tell you again.
My child, what are your response this is not like a 14-year-old, and even as a 15-year-old, as an 8-year-old, bad touch, good touch. No, I don't like that. No, don't touch me there. Teaching boundaries, all of that is super important. This is at 20. And I'm like, ma'am, shut this shit all the way down. I know Beyonce's actually talked about trying to grow into Sasha Fierce and all that alter ego and whatnot. And, cool. Maybe that's something that she had to get over time as she got older and became a capitalist. So we know her politics are getting worse. But just this,
honestly,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Finish.
No. I'm like, what say? So the first thing is, what created the world where she does not feel comfortable resisting? that sort of dynamic in the first place. That desire for fame that she has to work with Michael Jackson. Bro, baby Mike's gonna work with you, but go ahead. No, I'm just still frustrated now that I watched it again.
Yeah, so I think it's just important. Like even the desire for fame, she want access to a life that she don't have because of the political behaviors of people like the white man that she sent on the lap for. And so, again, I'm not never gonna accuse. I'm never gonna advocate for somebody who staunchly wants to be a class traitor and willfully do a particular thing. But in that video, it almost felt like, I don't know the whole clip and what happened before, but it almost felt like a casting call. Like there was a casting couch. Like, look, we got Michael on the phone. We got Michael on the phone. That's our validity. He's saying he loves us and he cool. Like, come sit on my lap. And I know people say she got up right afterwards, but like
after the call was over, I wanted to say yes. So like that's why where are her parents is what I'm saying. Like there was a system, there was an environment that created this vulnerability for Beyonce, and I am calling it vulnerable. My point wasn't that 20 is too old. I'm saying that even at a very young age, we teach youth no, yes, no means no, good touch, bad touch. That's what I'm saying.
We should.
Yes, thank you.
Should.
Now we do, because that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's what she received. That is what I'm trying to say. Clearly, it's a victim. So please do not take this as me trying to victim blame. I was just starting with the psychology, the environment that must have already gone into place to groom Beyonce to react like this in this sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at, I think we should do more of like, and I told Jared and Diallo this, like, I feel like we should do our own people's documentary of some of these public figures, of telling their story from a political lens since they're younger. So, I mean, you would have to include where they grew up in. But you remember, Beyonce was a child's aspiring star. Like, they constantly trying to, so by the time she gets to that age, like, she already had years and years and years of like, you got to make it, and these are the things you got to do, and you got whatever. So she could have very well received the training of like, I as you was talking, I remember the first conversation I think my aunt had with me about making sure that people respect your body, and if something don't feel comfortable, whatever. I was a little kid. Like, if you want to take a bath, it's like, so I think almost generally family members will do that, but it can also pivot when you need to make it out. You need to make us out for us, right? And so you can tell that Beyonce's dad and her mom and whoever else see her as a meal ticket. And so I would love to do like some of these, and you could tell the story about Disney or whatever, but even Solange, I think creatively people like Solange better than Beyonce. And I've heard some stuff, like I know some people from Houston, they say like Solange, like a couple of years ago, she still be at every club and she'll be fighting niggas, like physically fighting niggas. So Solange might be a little different, but I don't know about her analysis or whatever. I mean, I heard her music.
Right. Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see the two of them, the house that they grew up in, and how they might diverge from. At least Solange got a feminist, I assume, politic, the way she like threw them hands at Jay-Z and
hell yeah, Beyonce needs somebody to protect her like that. No, like truly. And so again, to just be clear, my point, which is why I started with talking about children and how they should be taught. I understand that. Not that how we are taught. We're in a country that doesn't do sex ed, basic information that people need. That is something that should be enforced from very early. So my point is that at 20, if she's still getting exploited like this and vulnerable this way, there was years that went into grooming her. That was my entire point, is that there was an ecosystem that created this particularly vulnerable person who would be willing to go and sit on this man's lap. and then pressured to do that. And the simplest thing in the situation, yes, there's all the stories about the Epstein class. This is very common. This happened to Mariah Whitney, but she's talking to Mike, somebody who also was in this ecosystem and somebody like, so it's actually just really like full circle that this is a young Black person being abused by the music industry and thinking it's an honor because they are connecting with somebody who is probably the poster child for a Black child being abused by the music industry. Like, this is Beyonce's reward. She's like, I, as someone being exploited, get to get in touch with like the, as
But
great as a talent as
yeah.
he is, exploited, Black superstar.
So remember, that's the argument around Harriet and Charleston and Beaufort and St. Helena is like they didn't have the phones, but the U.S. military, the Union, the Republicans, they knew that they ass couldn't win, and they needed to get the contraband to fight with them, so they had to get somebody who all the contraband know to come talk to them. So that but there's a revolutionary element to, again, these people being conscious and organized. And while these buckers think they tactically using them against each other or for their gain, not only do they know and they communicate and they start to consciously use the buckers, they were skeptical and they predicted that when Sherman gave some of the land to the people, they knew that it wasn't that they would probably be confiscated. So that's why you have a letter from Edisto Island, from Gullah Geechee people writing to the president saying like, yo, my nigga, like you said, we gonna, even in the Combie, they was like under preconceived conditions. Like they promised that after the shit over, we be able to control this land and y'all get the fuck out of our way. And so, yeah, like they have two, they're trying to use supposedly Africans that they already fully submitted and who I guess took the whatever celebrity thing, and yeah, like to give legitimacy or credibility to whatever the fuck they was doing. Mike was just used as that because, as you said, Mike was already I don't want to say punished as a child. Now, he was already punished by an environment that would force him to live his life through a public eye. And yeah, so, but in terms of Zinzi's statement about like a child, I do think the victim vector analogy is always important. It's like you can explain something from people's, as they say, trauma or whatever others call it. But once you start to perpetuate the harm, and like, again, as the revolutionary, if you building systems that's more harmful than the one that you're critiquing, at that point, like, I don't know, people's fair game for their,
I think the victim vector analogy is excellent. That's one of Diallo's stronger things, depending on, I don't know who he got it from or if that's one of his creations. But absolutely, we got to understand what created someone's victimhood and then how they end up spreading about that ideology. So definitely. But just an interesting story. No surprise here. Check out that interview we did with Musa on the Epstein class, as they're being called, or the Epstein files and all of those things, because this is a common phenomenon in those ruling circles, and one that's extended back since, the New World was founded in the first place. So not surprised at all. I think folks in the chat are also referring to Hayden Panettiere, the actress who died recently. I'm not sure what the circumstances were, if it was suicide. I haven't seen much more of the story, but I do know quite a few people were discussing that she is somebody, again, they're doing it to white women, right? They're going to do it to us. But she was a victim as well of sexual violence in those Hollywood circles, of being paired with older men at a very, very young age, and basically being groomed for this. So that took a toll on this person's mental health. I'm not sure if that played a role in her death, but just a terrible situation in general. So definitely something to look out for in the future. I agree. It is tough to always talk about these things when we also are trying to work for solutions. And so just want to keep that in mind every single time. But I appreciate y'all for joining us today. Geechee, you got anything coming up you want to share with the people?
Nah, man, just locking in. As I said, I am still trying to talk with the elders who was either relocated by their union to another job or have not been able to get another job because of mobility. So I'll be writing a story on that, and so I'll be working on that. But then, yeah, I'm locked in for first day of class Monday. How about
Got
you?
you. Asada reading group, Saturdays 1 p.m. Roots Bookstore and Market if you're in town. Okay, Zenzi, I'm seeing the story, so we'll definitely put it in the remix run sheet for next week. Sorry I missed it. But like I said, Asada Book Club, Saturday 1 p.m. Roots Bookstore, and check out Mass Call. We're gonna have Elder from the New African Tradition. It's going to be revealed very shortly, but she is on this platform. So that'll be someone joining us. And then hopefully we have Indigenous Elder as well. And that's going to be next Thursday at 7 p.m. virtually. So tune in for Mass Call with Blackman Bill. But that's all I got. Appreciate the infamous chat. Great talking to y'all. Great having that kind of feedback all the time. And that's all I got. Geechee, you ready to go? All hearts and minds clear?
Yeah, man. Let's rock out. Peace,
All
y'all.
right.
Thank you.
Peace, y'all. Only if you're willing to fight for it. Lorik, Geechee, Amber always here with us in spirit, like Chairman Fred Hampton and the rest of us. Check out Dark and the Blue today. We'll catch you next time.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.